I'm happy to be here. First of all, I would like to thank the UK and all people for help and support. Many thanks to Caroline. Many thanks to my sponsors. They opened not just their house, they opened their hearts. It's like my English British family now here. So I cannot express in words my gratitude to these people.
We can speak to Olga and Svetlana. They are two Ukrainian refugees living here under the Homes for Ukraine scheme. Good morning.
Morning.
Nice to be with us. We've also got Sarah, who's Svetlana's host. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
So, Olga, let's start with you. Just tell us your story. Where did you come from? How did you get here? Who are you living with?
Hello, my name is Olga. I am living with my hosts, Davida Redman and Brian Redman. Next to me, Caroline Quill, this woman who did the possible and impossible everything for Ukrainian people. She's host my cousin. So I am living with my sponsors even 7 months.
And how's it been? How have you found the welcome? How have you found living in the UK?
I'm happy to be here. First of all, I would like to thank the UK and all people for help and support. Many thanks to Caroline. Many thanks to my sponsors. They opened not just their house, they opened their hearts. It's like my English British family now here. So I cannot express in words my gratitude to these people.
And you mentioned Caroline. Caroline Quinn is a Times Radio listener who got in touch with us. Yeah, Caroline, how many families, Ukrainian families, have you helped into the UK?
About 250.
Wow. And how did you go about doing that? What was the point at which you helped one and then suddenly you've helped 250? That's amazing.
It started pretty early. It started before the visa scheme opened. Just before, I could see what was happening. We were all watching the news, listening to the radio, and you could just see this massive migration that needed to happen. And me and like-minded people were all there saying, "Come on, let us help. Let's bring these people over to the UK. Let's get them into Europe, and let's just get them somewhere safe." So that, we know what's going to happen in Ukraine. Let's just get them out of it as quickly as possible. And that's really how it started. Sarah was there with me all the way as well. And, we just hit Facebook, actually. That's how we did it. We went on as many Facebook sites as we possibly could. There was no organized kind of process from the government at that time. And as soon as the government said, we're going to let you do some visas, we were like, okay, let's get it all ready so that on the day the visa scheme opens, we can start hitting it. And we did about 30 or 40 visas on day one. But it was really a case of trawling Facebook, reaching out for people. We got to know priests in Poland as everyone poured over the border into Poland.
So you were on Facebook initially looking for Ukrainians to help, and then subsequently you found people who were willing to open up their homes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was on Facebook looking for people, and then I was on my village Facebook to start with, going, I want to take in a Ukrainian. Does anyone else want to? It won't work if there's only one. We need a community.
Yeah.
And I think we've brought about 100 Ukrainians into our village now, and it's only a small village. It's Mayfield in East Sussex, and it's actually changed the volume of people in the village. It's quite amazing, and they're a big part of our community now.
So let's bring in Sarah then. Sarah, explain what went through your mind when you saw what was unfolding in Ukraine when Russia invaded early this year. What went through your mind when you thought, okay, I can help?
I think, like lots of people, I just was desperate to help in some way. So I started off collecting items and getting them to people who were traveling down to Poland. And then very quickly we were told possibly not the best thing to do. And then we could see the number of people that would need rehoming. The countries on the border of Ukraine just could not cope with the volumes of people coming over. My husband and I were just sitting one evening watching the news. We're lucky enough to have a large house. I'm not working at the moment, so I've got time. And if it wasn't going to be us who stepped up, then who was going to step up? So we just felt we absolutely had to do something.
And you're there on the line with Olga. Morning, Olga. What's your...
Svetlana.
Sorry, Svetlana, that's right. Svetlana, tell us your story. Whereabouts in Ukraine are you from, and how did you get from Ukraine to being with Sarah?
I'm with my son, came seven months ago to UK. We are from big city Kharkiv in the east of Ukraine, and we are living with a perfect family for us. And my son is happy, and he is so now best friends with Sarah's youngest son, and I don't know. Everyone is so kind to us, and we are happy to be here.
And how did it feel, that process, going back 7 months? How did it feel leaving your home in Kharkiv to come to the UK?
It was so fast. I didn't think about this. I just done, and that's all. I had my car, and I was driving to to UK as well from my city. I was driving 3 days to west of Ukraine, and after that to Poland, and after to UK.
And what made you want to come to the UK specifically? Was it because did you heard about this scheme, or do you got family here, or what made you want to come to the UK?
I have been here like 3 times for visit my friend, and I knew what is the England, how it's look, what is that, and maybe because of my English, I have a little bit knowledge in English, and that's why it was my choice.
Caroline, explain how things are now 6 months in. Because clearly, in the rush to help back in February and March, there will be people now who wonder, well, I don't know how much longer this will last for. The payments we were hearing from Richard, the cost of living crisis means that's not going as far as it would have done. What sort of happened to those 250 families? How many are still with the people originally? How are they coping with the difficulties?
So I think a high percentage are still with their original sponsors, but there are definitely some that we have had to move now. So we have 3 or 4 families living in hotels while they wait for another solution. We have families that we've started moving into rental properties. Our local council has been quite generous. We're now receiving £500 a month instead of 350, and we're going to get a bonus payment at the end of 1 year. So I don't think money is potentially the drive around here. I think it's, as you say, it's people's space, isn't it? You are cramming more people into houses than perhaps you originally intended, and that can be tough on people. And I think it's fair to say that at some point these families will want to move on, and some already are. The big problem for me at the moment is finding the rentals. So most of them are working, but they're also receiving universal credit, and landlords don't want to touch universal credit applicants, and it's a massive problem around here for me. Most of these families come back to me when their sponsorship is ending. They come back and say, can you help us again? And we go into the second cycle of finding them somewhere to live.
Which presumably is harder second time around, because there's not the same sort of national focus and response that there was back. Because we've got Rich here as the former minister. Rich, your response to what Caroline was just saying.
Well, I think Caroline's response is quite typical. I mean, we estimated about 25% would not stay, would not be in the same house. Yeah. 2 ways of dealing with this. On the rental front, what she said about landlords. First of all, there is a big shortage of rental property, no question about that. And secondly, landlords usually expect credit references because people, the employment record, bank references, which of course refugees don't have. We made arrangements for them to open bank accounts, but as a guarantor of a lease. So we've given power to the local authorities to guarantee the lease for the refugees. Okay. Which means that from the landlord's point of view, the tenant is the local council, and from the refugees' point of view, they pay the rent, be it from their universal credit or be it from their salaries. Yeah. Many of them are working. They pay it to the council while a year goes on, and then they just become regular tenants because they've got that history. Yeah. So that was the way around that. And on the second point, about people being rematched, which is what Karen was explaining. This is it's difficult because people put down roots in a particular area. It's more difficult in a small village like Mayfield, obviously, because comparatively little, one school, if that, etc. But on the other hand, there were 210,000 people put their name down. Now, at the moment, there's about 140,000 refugees. So if you take the average as being about 3 per household, that's about, just doing it in my head.
So there will be people who actually put their names down and were disappointed first time round who might be able to come forward.
So we are doing quite a lot of rematching, or the government's doing quite a lot of rematching, but locally. And the councils do have a lot of power because Mayfield Council, which I have visited actually, I think when I was minister on a visit, they chose to give, they have the budget, they can allocate more of that to households if they want, because the government's paying them £10,500 a year per refugee. That's not per household. So if they wish to allocate some some of that,
which is what Caroline was talking about, bumping up the money.
Exactly.
I want to bring Olga and Svetlana back in. Olga, how have you found it? Has there been any sort of tensions in the house? Do you worry about, I don't know, outstaying your welcome, or how have you felt as time has gone on?
No, I'm feeling like I'm safe now. I understand. I'm appreciated for support of my host. I understand that I can stay here. They said me I can stay here so long, so I need it. So I'm so lucky to be here. And I try to find a job. I try to improve my English. So I have no problem here now.
And are you hoping that you will be able to go back to Ukraine?
Yes, I hope, because my family in Ukraine, my parents, my son. So I hope like every Ukrainian that war is finished soon, and we can come back to Ukraine. Sorry.
No, and Svetlana, if you had any issues, it's a bit difficult because you've got Sarah on Sarah, cover your ears. But Svetlana, if you had any issues, and are you also hoping to go back to Ukraine?
Yes, I hope, because my husband's there and we speaking with him every day, and we already been in Ukraine for 2 weeks with my son to visit my husband. But now my mom came 3 weeks ago, and with my niece, and I have more relatives here. It's very nice and helpful for me, and my son as well. And Sarah, again, like our angel, support me, my son, and my mom, and my niece, and everyone. And I think I'm really lucky. I had no problem with my host family. I hope Sarah had no as well.
That's good. I'm glad it's all that. Before I let you both go, is there anything that you found about being in the UK which you just don't understand, or that you don't like? I don't know whether it's the weather or the food or something weird, or Olga, anything that surprised you or you didn't like, or that you think is particularly weird that we do in the UK?
Yes, I'm surprised. I'm surprised because I thought that England, it's rain every day and cold, but here's more comfortable, and even in Ukraine.
Well, we had a record-breaking heat wave this summer to really put paid to that idea that it's always wet and cold. What about you, Svetlana?
I don't like public transport here. It's awful. It's terrible. And I don't know, it's quite expensive, trains and buses. I'm with car now, and I'm so happy to be here with car. But if you have no car and you live in village, it's terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. She's not wrong, is she, Richard?
No, I was hoping when you asked that question, they said, well, the thing we really don't like about the UK is radio presenters, mate. So what can I do?
It turns out they love the radio presenters.
They do.
Yeah, it's the buses that are rubbish. Yeah. Well, best of luck to all of you, and Caroline in particular. Thank you for getting in touch and for everything that you've done. Just finally, Richard Harrington, what would you like to see happen? Particularly that you think that now we're sort of 6 months in, this payment thing. Does sound like
Well,
it's quite a big thing the government could do. You
It
said that
does.
you'd
Yes,
suggested it.
That's right.
Where is it in the government machine now?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was suggested and it was looked favourably by the Treasury because the business case was actually very good. But if I could just leave one thought as to what I'd really like,
Yeah.
is for this system of sponsorship to be kept in place for whatever tragedy happens anywhere in the world, so that when a Prime Minister makes a pledge, which they all do with the best intentions, be it Cameron, Brown, Ted Heath back with the etc., that there is a mechanism for people to come and be welcomed into people's homes. So there's like a standing system in place. So if I could, in my 6 months as minister, if that is one thing comes from it, I would hope it would be that.
Richard, it's really good to see you. Thank you for joining us, former Refugees Minister. We also heard from, like I said, Cameron and Quinn, who did so much to bring families over. We heard from Sarah, who's the host of Svetlana, and Olga as well. So really appreciate you sharing your stories. We did have a statement from the government saying we are proud that Homes for Ukraine has helped more than 100,000 people flee Putin's barbaric invasion and find safety in the UK. We know the majority of their sponsors want to continue hosting beyond 6 months, and all arrivals have access to benefits and employment from day one. We are providing council with funding per person to cover additional costs, and we'll be working with them to ensure Ukrainians are receiving the help they need to access housing.